NASCAR makes an interesting rule change. NASCAR also announced they will be racing on Naval Base Coronado in San Diego next year, and there was a big name who fell in my power rankings. How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Talking NASCAR. I'm your host, Andrew. Episode number 24 on the way. We got a lot of news to cover, ranging all the way from Monday night to early Wednesday night, I would say. So I hope your Thursday is going well, and let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. If you're heading to the Brickyard 400 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway later this weekend, you better watch out for the Cookie Monster because he will be the Grand Marshal for the Brickyard 400 presented by PPG on Sunday. That was kind of a funny thing when I was looking on social media earlier a couple days ago, and I saw that the Cookie Monster would be the Grand Marshal for the Brickyard 400. I thought that was kind of random, I gotta be honest, but it's kind of funny, kind of cool. The Cookie Monster, obviously a very iconic character in Sesame Street. I watched a lot of Sesame Street when I was younger, so I hope that maybe he hasn't lost his touch when it comes to his Cookie Monster charm, I would say. He will also be joined by Pascal Siakam, the forward for the Indiana Pacers, who was a runner-up in the this year's NBA Finals. He will be the honorary pace car driver. So those two will be fun sights to see at the track. And NASCAR really has done a good job recently at Indianapolis with connecting with the city. I remember Josh Berry last year had a special Caitlin Clark scheme on his car. I think Caitlin Clark had like a Donruss or like a I forget what card company or whatever was on the hood of the car, but Caitlin Clark was also there. I'm pretty sure Ryan Preece is running a like basketball themed scheme this week on his number 60 car. So I would say NASCAR and Indianapolis have gelled together very well since the return of the Brickyard 400. Now, moving on, two drivers will be making their return to the Craftsman Truck Series. First off, Jordan Anderson, the former driver, now team owner, also does a little bit of driving for his own team in the Xfinity Series, will be returning to the Craftsman Truck Series at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park, or IRP as most people call it. He'll be driving the number 20 truck for Young's Motorsport. This will be Jordan's first Truck Series start since I believe 2022 Talladega, where he finished 36th. I think also in that race he might have caught on fire. I can't remember if that was that Talladega race or if it was another Talladega race. But Jordan has done a little bit of racing in the past. He's raced for his own team in the Xfinity Series in the number 32 car for his own team, Jordan Anderson Racing. He also did have a Truck Series team that he ran in every now and then. But it's cool to see Jordan Anderson behind the wheel of the Truck Series, a series where I would say he arguably had the most success at. As well, Christian Eckes, current driver of the number 16 Calling Racing Chevrolet Camaro in the Xfinity Series in his rookie year, by the way, will be returning to his old team in the Truck Series, McAnally Hilgerman Racing, at New Hampshire and Richmond on August 15th at Richmond, and then New Hampshire on September 20th. He'll be driving the number 16 truck in a fifth entry for McAnally Hilgerman Racing. Christian will be using his 2 off weeks to go moonlight at MHR, where he collected 8 victories, 25 top fives, and 35 top tens over 2 seasons with the number 19 team. After that, last season, he was sent up to the Xfinity Series for Calling Racing, and his crew chief, Charles DeNike, went up to the Cup Series with Bubba Wallace, and now Daniel Hemrick is in that number 19 truck and has done very well this season, I would say. This will actually be the first time the number 16 truck has been on track in the Craftsman Truck Series since the passing of championship winning team owner Shige Hattori, who owned Hattori Racing Enterprises. And this will be kind of a throwback to Hattori Racing Enterprises by Bill McAnally. Yeah, this is kind of a throwback to Hattori Racing Enterprises because from 2020 to 2021, McAnally Hilgerman Racing was housed at Hattori's NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series racing shop in Mooresville, North Carolina. So during the first two teams' first two full-time campaigns. So this was a very cool kind of scheme and kind of throwback by Bill McAnally and Christian Eckes. This will also have a bit of a memorial to Shige Hattori for his recognition in the series. So good luck to both Christian Eckes and Jordan Anderson in their upcoming races at IRP, as well Richmond Raceway and New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Now we got to move on to the in-season challenge. In a surprising twist, NASCAR says the $1 million prize will not be going to the winning driver, but will instead go to the winning owner of the car. This is contrary to what most people thought would happen, kind of similar to how NASCAR does the All-Star race, where the winning driver of the All-Star race receives the $1 million check directly. It is not going to the team. I mean, the team could technically get some money if the driver does decide to kind of give it to the team, but that's kind of up to their choice. But NASCAR isn't giving them a choice; it will go directly to the owner. Now, I would say the in-season challenge has received a lot of positive feedback, except for the parts of the seeding races and the races included in the in-season challenge, like Atlanta, which busted every single bracket. Like, there's no perfect brackets out there. I would be surprised who gets that $1 million prize after Indianapolis this weekend, because I don't know who has the perfect or the best bracket, I should say, after this weekend. Because quite honestly, there's been so many shakeups that it's almost impossible at this point, which is kind of cool. It really makes the challenge of winning that $1 million and having that perfect bracket a little harder and a little more tough. But I really don't know. And now that we all know that the $1 million is not going to the driver but going to the owner, I feel like that this may also kind of not influence the drivers to really try in this in-season challenge. Kind of like how Ty Dillon has been super aggressive in trying to make those gains and move on to the next round. Kind of like, because Ty Dillon's the 32 seed. He's made it from like he's the ultimate Cinderella story. And I wonder if we may never see a run like this again, because now we know that the $1 million is not going to the driver, but going to the owner. And that also makes me wonder if that's why all the drivers have said that they are not really affected by the in-season challenge and they have really no incentive. Or that's kind of what I've gotten from the some of the comments like Alex Bowman has made about the in-season challenge. So pretty surprising twist. I wonder how most of the NASCAR world and NASCAR fan base will react to this, if it's a positive feedback or if it's negative feedback. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. Now, moving on, NASCAR has introduced a new rule to the open entry list rule. So it says, quote, I'm just going to read it right here. NASCAR, at its sole discretion, may elect to limit the number of entries for a race to 40. In such instances, open teams will be determined based on the team owner points standing. So what this means is that NASCAR, at its discretion, can limit entry lists to 40 cars straight. That's all they can limit it to. Now, normally, normal NASCAR races like the Daytona 500, for example, can have more than 40 cars show up to a race, and that would mean some cars would go home, just like at also Chicago, where 41 cars showed up between Catherine Legg and Corey Harm, and Corey Heim ended up going home because he did not qualify into the race. Now, NASCAR is doing this so that it ensures that 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports will make every single race if they so choose, which means they will have no opportunities of missing any races, and it will be therefore very harder for them to say in court that they suffered irreparable harm by them losing their charters. My reaction to it is that I hate this if this is a long-term thing that is going to happen, that if you're going to have entry lists for the Daytona 500 and you're going to only limit the entry list to 40 cars, that sucks. It takes away the whole purpose of the duels pretty much, and it takes away all the suspense of qualifying. That really really sucks. Now, I really hope this is a temporary solution and this is only for the remainder of this season, and I really hate when NASCAR does this, when they implement new rules or change things about tracks in the middle of the season. And it's not a very good PR look, to be honest, for NASCAR when 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports are suing NASCAR on the fact that they are a monopoly and they're violating antitrust rules, and NASCAR saying we are not doing that, but they're also changing rules in the middle of the season. Like, it can't look very good on NASCAR's part. Now, if I'm being honest, there probably won't be any other races where we will have more than 40 teams show up to races. Like, the only race I can think of is Daytona for the Daytona night race, the regular season finale. But at the same time, like, we haven't seen that happen in a little while. And the last track we saw that at, besides the Daytona 500, was the Chicago Street Race, and it was only one car, and that was a 2311 racing car that went home. So like I don't know. This does take away the possibility that teams like Legacy Motor Club, who may want to enter another car with Jimmy Johnson or Calling Racing, or maybe I don't know. I can't think of any other teams off the top of my head, but you get what I'm saying. That this really sucks. You don't see some drivers like an Xfinity who want to make their shot and get a shot at the World Center of Racing like Daytona this upcoming week or in the coming weeks. It takes away that opportunity, and it really sucks. Like, Jesse Love is driving for Beard Motorsports this weekend at Indianapolis, and what if Beard Motorsports wanted to show up with Anthony Alfredo again at Daytona? Like, they're not gonna wanna do that. What if BJ McLeod wants to show up with his number 78 team, his homegrown team, his own, like, run team? Like, that's really gonna suck if that's such a case, and it's gonna be a thing that remains for the entire season and into next season, I would say. But at the end of the day, I think that this is a move by NASCAR to strengthen its case against the teams, and this will weaken the team's case against NASCAR and maybe possibly lose their preliminary injunction that they're still filing, which I did see that there is a hearing date scheduled. I think that's in August, and that's gonna be like a full month. I'm just thinking, oh god, we gotta wait for that. So it's gonna be a full month. And NASCAR has said that they will not sell their charters until that ruling has been made. So the teams do not have to worry about that until after that hearing. So those are my thoughts. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this new rule change. Do you like it? Do you not like it? I know for sure I'm not going to like it if this is a full-time thing and this is going to stick for years to come because I really don't want this to happen. Now moving on, there was a bit of a beef going on X between Larry McReynolds, analyst of NASCAR in the Fox broadcast booth as well. He's appeared on True TV for the TNT broadcast, and Danielle Trotta, who is the host of SiriusXM NASCAR Radio's On Track. So she's also as well a on track analyst on TV as well. So she and Larry McReynolds, who are both veterans in the NASCAR media world, made comments on their most recent episode about a certain driver that was calling for NASCAR to go back to the old playoff format, which was the long, full season playoff format where the driver that had the most points and was the best driver overall that season would win the championship. Now, since 2004, NASCAR has not used that playoff system, and we are now in the playoff system. For a while, it was the chase for the cup. Then it was just for a while the chase, and then it was the Monster Energy playoffs, and now it's the playoffs. It's had different rules like back in the mid 2010s. If a driver won, because winning year in was kind of a thing that started then, that a driver can only be in the top 30 in points for that win to count. Then they changed it to that any driver can win and they're in the playoffs, and that's where we kind of are now. Playoff points were added as well. So the playoff format has changed in the iteration of the playoff system, I would say solely NASCAR's postseason system or the championship deciding system. And right now, NASCAR is in talks with possibly changing the playoff format. And I maybe have not said it enough, but I do like the playoff system. I've grown up in the sports world where you have bracket style competitions. I mean, NASCAR, I just talked about it, unveiled the in season challenge with head to head matchups. And I don't think NASCAR will go to that. I really hope they don't go to that because that would kind of be a buzz and that would kind of take a lot of the fun out of the playoff system. And I really think that winning the year in is not the best way to make the playoffs and it's not to set the playoff field. And I do not like the one race winner take all championship finale, the final four race, which has most recently been at Phoenix and will continue to be this year. And we'll be heading to Homestead, Miami next year, unless you have the playoff format change. But you get what I mean. I really do not like the one race finale. Whoever finishes first, like the points reset. It's complicated. It's not that good. You get what I mean. Now, I've wanted a playoff format where it rewards consistency with letting the top 16 drivers in points all make the playoffs, as well as rewarding winning. You have possibly a points increase for that driver. They get an extra playoff point because I think playoff points can still be a thing because what stage racing going to be then at that point? So winning, you have an emphasis on winning with the addition of more playoff points. but you don't have that driver automatically get in. You have the drivers that are consistent and smooth and finishing inside the top 15 every single week, making the playoffs. And that will make in my opinion, the bubble battle a little more interesting because you have drivers that may fall out of the top 10 and right on the bubble right away. So I think that would be kind of a cool way to see the playoff format go. But anyway, getting back to the point, Danielle Trotta said on the radio show that she said this quote about the committees that are trying to work with NASCAR on possibly changing the playoff format, consisting of current NASCAR Cup Series drivers and owners and other personnel of NASCAR teams. And she said this quote, they have these committees now where drivers sit in, and I'm not going to mention the driver that's on the playoff committee that I've heard is screaming loudly to go back to that system. Now, while Danielle Trotta did not name exactly who that driver was, a lot of people really thought and knew who that driver was. And Larry McReynolds even said that he said, asking Danielle Trotta, quote, bet it's a driver that has not won a championship, to which he said, correct. And naturally, after a lot of people heard that, everyone thought that comment was pointed at Mark Martin, who has not won a NASCAR Cup Series championship and will never, because he is obviously retired from the sport, but he was one of the most successful drivers in NASCAR. And Daniel Trotta said on X to Mark Martin, because he was not agreeing with anything she said, and she said, quote, Mark, you know I love you, but what we got is a whole lot better than what we used to. We need a playoff. We need eliminations. We need to reward winning and consistency. This format does it all and is highly entertaining. Then Mark Martin responded with a post saying that, quote, no, we don't, all capitals. It was kind of funny. So he was along with a lot of other NASCAR fans who were frustrated with NASCAR's refusal to change the format and NASCAR's refusal to go back to that format, and also frustrated with NASCAR and Danielle Trotta. Martin also said that they want a system that is different than what the majority of NASCAR Cup fans want. I just want the majority of fans to get what they want. Then Larry McReynolds posted on X today that he was clarifying, saying, Mark Martin is my hero and proud to call him a friend. And he went on to further state that he was not referring to Mark Martin. Rather, he was referring to an active driver in the NASCAR Cup Series garage on the council. And most people suspected that it was Denny Hamlin because he has been one of the more outspoken members of the NASCAR Cup Series garage. And he is one of the few drivers in the Cup Series that has been so successful and so vocal without a championship. Now, looking at this and my reaction to it all, kind of looking at where it all started with Danielle Trotta and Larry McReynolds, I would say that they really did not do a good job arguing on the point where they are in favor of the current NASCAR playoff format. And I really don't know. Like, I think Danielle Trotta did a better job of it, like kind of clarifying and talking, I guess I should say, like calling out Mark Martin with her post on X, but Larry McReynolds really didn't, and it was just kind of him pointing fingers and looking at the credentials of Mark Martin, and I really don't know if that's the best way to do it, man. Like, I'm not very involved. I'm not the best guy who you could look at and give a firm decision on an argument, in my opinion, but I really don't think Larry McReynolds and Daniel Trotta really did the best way and weren't very tactful with it. Like, they were trying to be, but they at the same time they weren't, and it wasn't the best way to do it. And Mark Martin, when he says that he wants to have a system that is different with the majority of NASCAR, and he wants all the NASCAR fans or the majority of NASCAR fans to get what they want, it's hard to please everybody, and that's a fact. And a lot of people are unhappy with the current situation in NASCAR, so it's kind of tough. And I really think that Mark Martin is saying the right thing, that he wants the majority of NASCAR fans to get what they want, but it's going to be hard to get that. So that's my reaction to the beef between Danielle Trotta, Larry McReynolds, and Mark Martin on X last night and earlier today. Let me know what you think of the NASCAR playoff format. I made an episode kind of talking about this a while back. You can go check that out. That's on the show as well. So if you want a little bit more of my thoughts on what the playoff format should be turned into or what changes should come to the NASCAR playoff format, you can go check out that episode. It's somewhere on the show, so you'll go find it. I haven't posted a crazy amount of episodes. This is only the 24th, so I think you'll find it pretty easy. Now, moving on to the final topic before we get to my newest edition of Power Rankings. It was confirmed today that NASCAR will be racing on the streets of San Diego. A report originally came out a couple days ago from the racer that NASCAR had secured a deal to race on the streets of San Diego, and we have finally got the official confirmation and the official confirmation on where the race will be happening. It will be happening at Naval Base Coronado, and it will be the brand new street race on the 2026 NASCAR Cup Series schedule, replacing the Chicago street race, which, as we all know, was confirmed very recently that NASCAR will not be returning to next year and is on hold until possibly 2027. I think NASCAR hit a home run with this deal. Now, this is only a 1 year deal, and it will have all three series, all three national series at Naval Base Coronado, the Cup Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Craftsman Truck Series. So, overall, though, NASCAR did very, very well getting this deal. It's in the 250th anniversary of our country's founding. So, I can't think of anything more cool than this. It will be a couple weeks before 4th of July. It'll be on Father's Day weekend, which a lot of people aren't happy about. I'm like, maybe you could have tried to moved it up a little bit quicker, but I get the timing. Maybe this could have been maybe like a titch bit later or earlier, kind of depending on the schedule. But this will be the fifth race on Amazon Prime's series coverage of the NASCAR Cup Series. So, what a way for Amazon Prime to finish off their section of the schedule. They must be very, very happy. They got Mexico City, they got a lot of good races this year, and now they're getting San Diego with a street race in the Southern California market. I mean, Prime and Jeffrey Bezos better be very happy about that. I also know Fox may not be very happy about that because it's in the Southern California market, and NASCAR has really covered the Southern California market, except for the last couple of years with Fox. So I know they can't be very happy about that. NASCAR also released a kind of teaser or reveal video on YouTube today, and it was kind of filmed in the Top Gun style, which Naval Base Coronado was also the place where Top Gun Maverick with Tom Cruise was filmed. So it was kind of cool there. You had the police chase, you had drivers in the fighter jets, you had them kind of like this movie scenes with Noah Gregson, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Carson Hocevar. It was all really, really funny and really, really cool. So, and NASCAR's been doing a really good job of that. So, I know the social media team had a field day with that one, but we're really, really cool to have that. Now, my only other gripe about having this race in Southern California with this specific street race is that we're having the Craftsman Truck Series go out there, and I get it, it's a national series, but NASCAR has wanted to have a national series kind of be the grassroots kind of small and I guess hometown kind of series. And I know we have the Arkham Menard series that races on short tracks, but it's not as often as the Craftsman Truck Series. So, and a lot of team owners have said that they're losing money by just even going to Las Vegas compared to Xfinity Series teams and Cup Series teams. And now you're making them trek out to Southern California and San Diego for Naval Base Coronado. Like, maybe I'm a little bit wrong on this. There was a report a couple months back about teams not being very happy with the payout and hoping it can be a little bit higher. Granted, maybe the payout will be a little bit higher that we're in a bigger market than Chicago or Las Vegas, I guess compared to Chicago or Las Vegas, but maybe that will happen. But I feel like the Craftsman Truck Series should kind of go back to that, I should say, grassroots kind of style. More short tracks, more mile and a halves in that eastern seaboard kind of area, like tracks like Charlotte, maybe the Roval sneaks on there. They went to Lime Rock Park, and it was a cool track. It wasn't a great race. It was kind of boring, to be honest, but it was still a cool track to go on. It was in Rhode Island, and I think it would have been really cool to kind of do that kind of stuff. You can have the staples like Daytona, Talladega, Kansas, but you don't need to go all the way out west to these major markets. Like they weren't even racing at the Chicago Street Race. So, I mean, maybe this will be different compared to some of the other times, but I feel like the Craftsman Truck Series, maybe NASCAR is trying to give it more exposure, but it hasn't really worked so far. So that's my only gripe with it. And that's honestly like a very small gripe because I really like the Truck Series. I think it has a lot of fire to it and it's kind of funny. It's kind of, I mean, I know a lot of people may not like that when I say it, like it's kind of funny, but I like it in a way where it's entertaining. It's a little more entertaining than Xfinity Series or Cup Series on a weekly basis. It has some young rising stars. It has a lot of beating and banging. it kind of reminds me of the old Gen 6 days, kind of like how the Gen 6 car and the Cup Series drove. So that's my opinion on that. Let me know down in the comments what you think. The full schedule will be released in a couple weeks, hopefully. NASCAR is still trying to piece together all the dates, but we got a couple slipping through the cracks with the Clash, the Daytona 500, of course, the Coca-Cola 600, of course. The Southern 500 is most likely going to be on there again for next year. And now you have this. So I can't say that this isn't a very cool date to have on the schedule. I think NASCAR did a very good job with getting this set up. But now it's time to move on to the final segment of the day, Power Rankings, where every week I rank the top 10 fastest drivers and teams in the NASCAR Cup Series. This time it will be post Dover edition, and like I said in the intro, there is one driver that fell down the rankings more than others. So let's jump in. One driver that is not in my top 10 this week is William Byron, and you might think I'm crazy, but hear me out. One, he doesn't have the regular season points lead anymore, so I can't keep relying on that. And two, he hasn't led a lap in weeks, just weeks. It's been a really rough stretch for William Byron. He got caught up in a wreck at Dover. He did finish 8th at Sonoma, but he didn't lead any laps there. So Byron, his last track that he led laps at was Michigan, and even in that race he finished 28th because he ran out of fuel. So it's been a rough stretch for William Byron. Hasn't been as consistent as he was early in the season or a couple weeks ago. I just need to see a little bit more consistency before I can actually put him back inside my top 10. Now, a guy that has been really consistent but not in my top 10 is Chris Buescher. Now, nothing against Chris Buescher. I feel like that there's just been some guys that have been performing a little bit better than him and a little bit more consistently than Chris Buescher. Recent finishes of 9th, 16th, 18th, and 9th going back to Atlanta. So Chris Buescher, he's been solid. He's been kind of on a Chase Elliott arc, but he hasn't led the same amount of laps. So I just need to keep Chris Buescher out of my top 10 once again this week, but he's definitely knocking on the door. And Bubba Wallace, who finished 7th at Dover after a couple really rough races, but again, I need to see a little bit more consistency out of Bubba Wallace, but he's still in the playoffs right now, actually extending his points lead over the cut line by 16 points now. So if a little more consistency comes Bubba Wallace's way, he may find himself in my top 10 once again. But at number 10 is the driver of the number 48, Alex Bowman. Finished on the podium at Dover. Didn't really lead a lot of laps that day. It was kind of a quiet day, but came on strong at the end. Ended up finishing inside the top 5. Really good race for Bowman. Besides Dover, recent finishes of 19th at Sonoma, then 8th at Chicago, 3rd at Atlanta, and 11th at Pocono. Bowman, he's been really consistent all year. He's found that consistency later on as we go. He's still in the playoffs right now. Extended his points gap over the cut line. Now it's 63 points over the cut line. So hopefully Bowman can finally get that first win. With Watkins Glen coming up in a couple weeks, maybe at Indianapolis he can find him speed, but he'll stay at number 10 this week. At number 8 is Ryan Blaney. Started 31st at Dover, finished 8th. Was probably the best Ford at Dover this week, coming off a rough finish at Sonoma where he had good speed though. He finished 36th because he got wrecked a couple times, not his fault. That's been the story of Ryan Blaney's season altogether this year. He's had a lot of rough finishes, a lot of DNFs that aren't his fault, but despite that, he's 7th in the point standings. He has 7 top 5s and a win. He's been really good. So I do have to bump him down a couple spots because, again, not really his fault, but again, some other guys that have just been a little bit more consistent than Ryan Blaney, guys that actually can finish his races. So Ryan Blaney at 9. How about Kyle Busch getting inside the top 10 on my power rankings for the first time this year? Welcome in, Kyle Busch. Has had really good results as of late. Recent finishes of 11th, 10th, and 5th. Was running up inside the top 10 for most of the first half of the race at Dover. Kind of faded because he lost a little bit of his track position, but came back at the end to finish 11th. And his RCR teammate of Austin Dillon finished 15th, though he had to use some pit strategy to get that finish. But Kyle Busch, he's definitely been struggling as of late, but last 3 finishes have been pretty good for Kyle Busch, and he got closer to the playoff cut line. He's only 39 points out, though. He realistically does need to win his way in though, but still a lot more races left to go in the regular season. He might point his way into the playoffs, so watch out for good old KB. Tyler Reddick will once again come in at number 7. Started in 4th at Dover, finished 12th. didn't have as good of a result as his teammate Bubba Wallace, but clearly that not having a charter status is not affecting Tyler Reddick or 2311 Racing at all this season. Recent finishes of 6th, 3rd, and 4th. However, 2 of those were road courses and the other was a super speedway. I am starting to believe that Tyler Reddick isn't as good on ovals as he was last year, however, but road courses, maybe he can find his first win of the year at Watkins Glen coming up, and maybe super speedways at Daytona will treat him good, so we'll just have to wait and see. But Reddick at 7. Chase Briscoe is up 2 spots to number 6. Started 2nd, finished 2nd, and he was very close to win. He almost beat his teammate Denny Hamlin, if not for a last lap slip up off of turn 4 coming to the white flag. But back-to-back 2nd place finishes. 2nd place at Sonoma. At the Chicago Street Race, blew a tire. Not really his fault there. And then going back to Pocono, he finished 1st. So Chase Briscoe, back-to-back top 2 finishes. He's just been really good. And he started 2nd in both those races too. So, I mean, Chase Briscoe has been very good. He's also got 4 poles, by the way. So Chase Briscoe, he's doing a lot of good things right. If he can just stay consistent and finish out races like he did at Pocono, he'll be staying inside my top 10 for quite a little bit. But Chase Briscoe at 6. Moving up another spot is Ty Gibbs. 5th at Dover. Very good result there. Finished 7th at Sonoma and then 2nd at the Chicago Street Race. And then he finished 14th at Atlanta. So Gibbs with Chris Gabehart on the box is looking a lot better. He's gone from the bottom barrel of the NASCAR points standings all the way up to 16th in the regular season points standings. Right now in the playoffs, he is sitting a couple spots outside of the playoffs right now. I believe he is currently sitting in, let me see real quick. He's sitting at 19th, 52 points out. Realistically, he does need to win his way in, but he's really good at road courses. Watkins Glen is coming up in a couple weeks. That might be the prime time for Ty Gibbs to get his first career NASCAR Cup Series victory. Don't also count out Daytona too, because anything can happen at Daytona. But Ty Gibbs at number 5. His teammate of Christopher Bell is also up 1 spot compared to last week. And no, it's not based on the finish, because he had several mistakes that cost him that top 10 finish. He finished 18th though, but he was at the back of the lead lap, still managed to get up to 18th place. So really good speed from Christopher Bell, just a couple mistakes, and we haven't seen that consistency from Bell, but I'm liking the speed I've seen. He just needs to, again, finish races. Kind of like the same thing going on with Chase Briscoe. Really good speed a lot of weeks, just needs to have that consistent finish. But Christopher Bell at 4, coming off a 5th place finish at Sonoma. I feel comfortable with putting Bell at number 4. And Kyle Larson is up to number 3. Finished 4th at Dover, and coming off a disappointing finish at Sonoma, couldn't really get out of the back of the pack, got spun a couple times, and his finishes haven't been bad. They've just been not the same as they used to be. Going back to Charlotte, the Coca-Cola 600, he's been on a dry spell, but maybe this 4th place finish at Dover, had to start in 25th, marched his way up through the field, got some stage points. Maybe this is the momentum starter that Kyle Larson needs. A couple good tracks coming up for him. Watkins Glen, he's a very good road course racer. As well, Indianapolis, he won there last year. And then Iowa, Richmond, and Daytona. He's not very good at Daytona, but thought I'd mention it because it's a super speedway. So anything can happen there, but some good tracks coming up for Kyle Larson. He'll move up to number 3. And I do have Chase Elliott moving down 1 spot to number 2. Look, Chase Elliott ran a great race, but started on pole, even though he really didn't have to qualify his way there. But finished 6th, kind of threw it away at the end due to some bad pit strategy, but still a really good race for Chase Elliott. Coming off a 3rd at Sonoma, then 16th, and Atlanta, he finished at 1st. So Chase Elliott, he's been consistent all year long. That's why he is now the regular season points leader. He's just been so consistent, but he hasn't been as explosive as the guy in front of him. But Chase Elliott at 2, down 1 spot. He just, again, not as explosive and as good as the guy in front of him. Because Denny Hamlin is in at number 1. Won Dover on the final lap, had a battle with his teammates, both Bell and Briscoe. But Hamlin, he's so versatile, and through all the generations of cars he raced in, from the 2010s all the way now to the Gen 7 car, he's been so good. He's been willing to adapt, finished 1st at Dover. Even though he had a tough race at Sonoma, still finished 4th at the Chicago Street Race. Hamlin, he's been really good recently. He's had good speed at a lot of tracks that we didn't think he would have. And Dover, he's the defending winner heading into this race. He just picked up his second win at Dover in the past 2 years. So, Denny, I feel comfortable with putting him at the number 1 spot here. Let me know down in the comments what you think of my top 10. Do you agree with it? Do you think some guys should be off the list? Let me know down in the comments below. If you did enjoy this episode of Talking NASCAR, go check out some of the other episodes on this show. If you did enjoy as well, leave a follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Go also check out the YouTube channel where there will be some other videos and episodes with Talking Sports with Miles and Andrew. That's the other show I co-host with my buddy Miles Shield. We just released an episode a couple days ago. Go give it a little follow and watch. It should be pretty good. But that's all I got for you guys today. And I'll see you in the next episode of Talking NASCAR. I'll see you later, guys.